is following me? It's eating my food! It's carnivorous moss? Are you kidding me?
Coming up, Mariner and her former lower decks pals get trapped in the cave as a carnivorous moss threatens to eat them alive.
Wait, I just got stuck in a cave with Lieutenant Levy.
Did he go on and on about his conspiracies?
Oh, yeah.
Trapped, and with their lives threatened, the four recall their past experiences being trapped in caves to help save themselves.
How'd you know how to do that?
Oh, I guess I learned how to solve problems like that when Dr. Tana and I were trapped in that cave with our kid.
I'm sorry. You're what?
What shocking details will their individual stories reveal?
And what kind of impact will they have on their friendship?
All this and more.
Coming up on the Star Trek Lower Decks edition of Energize.
Energize.
We're hilariously going into the uncharted regions of the Star Trek universe.
You're listening to Energize, a Star Trek Lower Decks edition podcast. Your source for comedic analysis, colorful debate, and fun discussions about the adventures of Beckett Mariner and the USS Cerritos Lower Decks crew.
I'm your host, Anthony McLemore.
And I'm Steve Truitt. This week, a carnivorous moss threatens to make a meal out of the Lower Decks crew who are trapped in a cave.
But will shocking stories from their past put the future of their friendships in jeopardy?
Here's a warp speed recap of Season 4, Episode 8 of Star Trek Lower Decks, Caves.
Yeah, I've got a research mission to go on.
Really? So do I.
Away team, get out of there. We're detecting tremors. Hold tight, we're trying to get a signal. Stand by for transport.
Trapped in a cave. Can't wait to find out what's lurking around. Any, unspeakable evils in here? Can we skip past the waiting and just attack us now? Guys, I think the moss is following me.
Oh, it's probably just naturally drawn to your body heat, like it's looking for a warm hug.
Not a hug!
It's eating my food! It's carnivorous moss? Are you kidding me?
Guys, I think we need to hurry.
Wait.
All right, Steve. So this week's episode was about friendships and what happens as close friends' paths in life change and bonds with others outside that group are made. Does that compromise your original friendships?
Yeah, this is an interesting episode to me because, I always talk about departure episodes. There's always one episode every season of every show where they kind of do something a little different. And I think that's what this one was. But I gotta admit, it felt very simple. It felt kind of almost like a throwaway episode. I wasn't sure why they did this, why they put it in episode 8 slot. I don't know. I felt like maybe this could have been a second or third episode of the season, or maybe not. It wasn't my favorite.
I liked it, but I think it was well placed because we've seen an evolution of their characters throughout the season. They got promoted. Well, I mean, they're changing. Their responsibilities are changing, and they're not this group that was all in the lower decks anymore. They have their own individual cabins. They don't see each other as much anymore, and I think this was about growth. I think this episode was all about growth. So. This episode starts with Mariner, Bourne, Lieutenant, and Rutherford being excited to be sent on an away mission.
Yeah, I've got a research mission to go on.
Really? So do I. You guys are on the away team too?
It's a Meta-Ship reunion!
Yes!
And just like I said before, since they've been promoted to lieutenant, they hardly ever get assignments together anymore. And while they're all excited to be working together as friends, Mariner's not thrilled about the assignment because she considers it very boring.
Yeah, and they're all kind of ignoring her too. They're going down there and she's like, you guys, caves, it seems like all we ever do is go to caves and nothing ever goes right with caves. And I did feel she was particularly funny in this one, especially in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. She's like, oh, my gosh, here we go.
Yeah.
And so I like that. I like that part of it. But, I kind of want to touch on what we said originally was that the evolution of characters and how that impacts friendships. I mean, we've all had friendships where you have a tight group, but as life and career get poured into the mix, sometimes those friendships don't survive. And I think, maybe that's what, is addressed in this episode.
Yeah, I may have just completely missed that. I don't know why I didn't catch on to that. Usually I do, but yeah, you're right. I guess maybe I just kind of forgot that they're not sleeping together. Well, not sleeping together, but sharing the same quarters. Yeah, I had best friends in high school. We went to college. We kind of lost touch, and then we got back together in the summers and stuff. But other things had happened. We'd made other friendships and done other things, and it is kind of a strange feeling.
Yeah. So they beam down to the planet. This is their away mission together, and so they're in the cave. And before they can even get to work, Ransom calls in and gives them the order to evacuate because they're tremors.
Away team, get out of there. We're detecting tremors. Hold tight. We're trying to get a signal. Stand by for transport.
Yeah.
And of course, with tremors comes a cave collapse, and the cave collapses, and the transporters can't, pick up their signal, and they're trapped in the cave.
And of course, Mariner's like, "Oh wow, what a surprise!" She's so pissed.
Trapped in a cave. Can't wait to find out what's lurking around. Any unspeakable evils in here? Can we skip past the waiting and just attack us now?
You can just see her eyes and how angry she is.
Yeah, and she calls it out. She's like, okay, so we're trapped in a cave, which means we're not going to be able to get a signal for communications with the ship. And then, things are going to jump out of the bushes and attack us because we're in the dark.
It's right. That was great. And then this weird thing happens. I think somebody scratches a wall or hits something, and this moss just kind of starts to glow. And it glows at first. It's like, oh great, Rutherford's like, I don't need my headlight anymore. But it's not too great because the moss actually starts growing a little bit.
Yeah.
Guys, I think the moss is following me.
Oh, it's probably just naturally drawn to your body heat. Like it's looking for a warm hug.
Not a hug.
It's eating my food.
And it starts inching towards them, and then jumps on Tindy's leg.
Yeah, and eats her boot.
Yeah, it's a carnivorous moss, meaning carnivore. You know.
That's the point.
So here we are. We have the stakes. So you have this moss that's growing in size and moving towards them. So they're in a bit of a predicament.
And I'm starting to think like, well, okay, where's this going? Because this is why I was originally not too sure I was into the episode, because I'm like, well, what are they going to do with this? Where do you go from here? But it's great because Boimler starts recalling when he was trapped in a cave with this conspiracy guy named Steve Levy.
Wait, I just got stuck in a cave with Lieutenant Levy, and we used Gamma Knight to boost our combat's distress call.
Levy? Did he go on and on about his conspiracies?
Oh, yeah.
So Lieutenant Levy and Boimler were on this mission. And, what's funny about Levy, he's the one that yelled out, I remember in a previous, I think it was season 1, he's like, the Dominion War was a hoax, the Battle of War 359 was an inside job, that whole thing. I think Mariner had gone out with him once. That's what it was. She had gone out with him and was just like, oh, this guy, conspiracy theory guy. And so, I just thought that was funny to have him in there. And so in that scenario, they were trapped in a cave, and Lieutenant Levy botched an escape due to his stupid theories, and it made Boimler go off.
It was great. I like that he just kept listing all the theories, like the Battle of Wolf 359 was an inside job, and Dominion War was a hoax, and I thought that was really great. But the big hoax.
Yeah, and it actually hurts his feelings.
Yeah, he does. He's like, I'm just trying to help and be loved. But the big theory he has now is that they're a part of some Van Dorian morality test, right? And
yes.
And Boimler's just like, okay, listen, here's the deal. That's not happening. You got to just chill.
Your cruelty displeases us. You have failed our morality test.
Oh, Vandorians!
Whoa, no way! I knew it!
Yep. And then lo and behold, suddenly the Vandorians appear, giving what Levy said, his conspiracy theory legitimacy.
To the letter.
And it kind of reminds me.
To the letter. Like, yes, we're
to the letter.
We're doing a Vandorian morality test.
Rather than work together to escape, you have chosen to denigrate and bicker. You shall be punished.
I'm already feeling pretty punished.
And so the Vandorians kind of remind me of that episode from the original series called The Empath, where these aliens were going to save one of two species, and they were testing them to see which one had empathy. And remember, the aliens were like, listen, we're going to torture either Spock, Bones, or the captain. Right. And they said, if we torture the captain, he'll be a vegetable. If we torture Spock, something will happen. But the person with the greatest chance to live is Bones. And she displayed empathy when Bones was, in bad shape. And then they were like, we will save this species. And then she heals Bones.
And I remember thinking, like, was all that really necessary? Wow, that's a really rough test.
Could we have faked this?
Maybe could I have taken an exam?
See if she had empathy. If there were
a written exam, maybe.
Yeah, if they were worthy. I mean, it was a really barbaric way of testing one's empathy by not displaying empathy on someone. So yeah, that was weird. So I thought that was really funny. And then so Boimler and
Levy.
Boimler and Levy are captured, and then Levy, but they're really intrigued by Levy's knowledge of the Vandorians, this whole conspiracy theory, and they loved it.
Did you notice that? Did you notice the lead Vandorian woman was Captain Freeman's voice?
Yes, I did. I picked that up real quick. Yeah, the Vandorians are delighted to see that, or rather intrigued by Levy's knowledge of their whole way of doing things. Boimler admits he was wrong, and this delighted the Vandorians because they felt like he changed, and that was their morality test, and so they were free.
And that was Boimler's cave story.
Yeah, but I think what comes out of that is the fact that Boimler says, "Hey, I've hung out with Levy. I think he's cool." And everybody's like, "What?"
Right? Yeah, and especially Mariner, and I had forgotten that she was, I guess, dated him, like you said, but she was really like, "Ew, Levy." She really did not like him.
Yeah. And so next, they're back in the so we're back in the cave. We've come out of Boimler's story, and time is running out because the carnivorous moss continues to grow. And Boimler, they're looking for trigamamite, which is going to help them break
up the moss. Yeah,
fix their comms. Yeah, as they're trying to figure out how to separate the trigamamite from the gammarite rocks in the cave, Ruther reveals he learned how to do this when he was once trapped in a cave with the doctor, and they had a kid together. And Tindy's like, what?
Totally. I was shocked, too. I'm like, wait, what?
Now we just have to do the delicate work of separating the trigammanite.
How'd you know how to do that?
Oh, I guess I learned how to solve problems like that when Dr. Tana and I were trapped in that cave with our kid.
I'm sorry. You're what?
Yeah, it's like, hey, I didn't mention that.
They're like, no, you didn't. So we go to that backstory, which I think that might have been probably my favorite one of the fall.
Oh, it was freaking hilarious.
It's so great.
Yeah, it was really funny.
I am dying.
Don't move.
We'll stabilize you. This body is gone. I must transfer to a new one. I will simply procreate my base mind via dermal contact.
So the doctor and Rutherford were looking for medicinal ferns in a cave when their guide was mortally wounded by this wild animal. And so the guide was dying, and she procreates through touch. Yeah. And so basically she impregnates Rutherford through dermal contact. And he delivers the clone of herself.
The doctor just so casually is like, yeah, this species, gets you pregnant through dermal contact, and they have a baby pretty much in 5 seconds. So he just expands hugely, and then she gives him his boot to bite on. And he's like, I don't want to bite down, and she starts cutting open his stomach, and he's just like, and he screams, and he passes out. I think he passes out. And then boom, this strange looking baby that he had.
Yeah, and they spend all this time trying to figure out, taking turns trying to figure out how to get out of the cave as they play with the baby and they bonded with it. And so that was how he had a baby. Yeah.
And then they got out because this creature that had killed the first one, Rutherford was able to synthesize his universal translator to speak to this monster. And the monster's like, wait, you can understand me? And it turns out the monster was just trying to protect its baby. And it's like, and they made friends. And he goes, I'll show you out. And another happy, successful story.
Shuttle's salvageable, but power's dunzo unless we can scrounge up some pergium.
Well, it's our lucky day because according to this, there's a pile of pergium right over there. Ugh, I feel terrible. Are you guys seeing this?
What the hell? Did you get older?
And so we go back to the cave, and Mariner's using her comm badge to filter to the gamma mite, which she learned from being trapped in a cave with Delta
Which she didn't want to admit
during the shuttle crash.
She did not want to admit that.
She didn't want to admit it.
No.
She did not want to admit it. And so it was hilarious. So they're in this cave, and they need this element called pergium to power the shuttle to get out of the cave. And they see some, but they have to cross as they're walking towards it. They age and turn into progressively older and older and elderly until they start breaking bones. And so there was a vein of minerals emitting chronotons, which were randomly aging them.
Yeah, that was so great. I love that. Maybe that was my favorite one. maybe it wasn't Rutherford's story.
Yeah, and so Mariner and the leader of Delta Ship are trying to outdo each other.
Well, that sucks because we have to get to that wall over there or no pergium.
I'm gonna be a spry old lady. I'll just muscle through it.
What are you doing? Cut it out. You're gonna get too old.
I bet I age more gracefully than you.
Trying to get to the pergium.
And the closer they get, the older they
die. Get. Yeah, they're going to die. And it got really ridiculous because one of the they said, well, let's get this younger guy. But he had broken his leg in the shuttle crash.
Compound fracture.
And so every time he moved...
Compound fracture.
He had a compound fracture. But he moved closer to the pergium and aged, and it healed because he was moving through time, but it was never set. so it broke off.
It just got worse and worse and worse. He's like, I just want my leg.
And they end up abandoning his leg because this other crew member aged backwards.
He went to a different section. He's like, hey, guys. He's like a young kid. I found some up here. It's working opposite way. And they're like, oh, great. So that was the funniest part, I think, when they were able to walk back and de-age, which was fantastic.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty funny. But the thing was, Mariner and the Delta Shift leader had a tender moment. Yeah. And you were just talking about the fact, why does... her shift hate Delta Shift, and it's like, wait a minute, we don't ever get to see the captain or any of the other officers because we're on the shift where everybody is asleep.
Yeah, and you leave messes for us to clean up and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and so they kind of in that moment the two bonded, and so when they come out of Mariner's story, you find out that she actually hangs out with them, which everybody's like, what, you hang out with Delta Shift? Yeah. Well, yeah, they're all right.
Yeah. Yeah, and now we're seeing, the shock that everyone has of, wait, you like Steve Levy, you hang out with Delta Shift, you had a baby, they're all just kind of incredulous about it.
Chanted with them?
Chanting's our thing.
I can chant with other people.
Guys, don't fight.
I don't know who you are anymore.
Oh, why don't you ask your pal Steve Levy?
Delta Shift is way worse.
You didn't even tell us you were a father.
I did too tell you, just not right away.
Yeah, which I guess, they're feeling that their friendship is, as a group, because they've been there since they all signed on to the Cerritos, is threatened. And, threatened by new friends. And we there are situations where you have a core group of friends and then some members of the group go and make other friends and do other things. It doesn't mean that they don't love their original group. It doesn't mean they're forsaken their original group. It's just that, everybody has other interests and you expand out, your core group may not always fit, and, it is interesting. It may not be what you need for other aspects of your life.
What's interesting about that, too, is that this is an unusual take on this because in all the other Star Treks, the crew always is together. They've always been together. They're just, the captain and the first officer and, the upper decks, right? And so they don't really go off anywhere. I mean, we've had people die on shows, we've had people leave, but this was a very unique telling of this because they moved up, and so they aren't going to be around as much. And I guess this episode needed to happen.
Yeah, it made complete sense in the progression of their storylines. And so they're back in the cave, and all of them are upset because they're having experiences outside the group that have led to other friendships outside of theirs.
And Tindy keeps trying to tell her story, and they're not even listening because Mariner's like, it was in a turbo lift. It was in a turbo lift. It's not a cave.
Yeah.
And this moss is just, not eating them alive, but it looks like it's going to, and it's covering them up to the point where they're up against the wall, and it's basically all they have left is their face. And she's like, I just want to tell my story.
You cannot leave.
Did the moss talk? What is happening?
You cannot leave until I hear the Green One's story.
And then we find out that the moss is actually sentient and starts talking to him. It's just like, hey, listen, I really want to hear Tindy's story.
Right, before I kill you all. So
I eat a lot of people, and I don't ever get any stories. And so
So they tell the story of one night partying too much. They're drunk. They're leaving wherever they are, the bar, and it turns out they weren't drinking synthahol. It was real alcohol. And they get into the turbo lift, and it gets, there's a power outage in the ship, and they're stuck there.
For hours.
Yeah, well, they call for help, and they're like, sorry, we'll come get you when we can, just... And I think Rutherford's like, couldn't you just beam us out? And they're like, nope, no power, sorry. Yeah, they're there for, I think it was 4 or 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah, and this was kind of their original bonding experience. They played games, and I think that's where they originally became really close.
I just wanted to say, it doesn't matter if we start hanging out with Steve Levy or Delta Shift or having a baby. We'll always be friends. I love you guys.
That was Tendy's first real time on the ship.
Yep, exactly.
That's how they all... I mean, they were talking about they had to pee in the corner of the elevator. And they're playing games and stuff. Yeah, isn't it interesting that her story, the one they wouldn't let her tell, was the only one that included all of them?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think they well placed all this. And so coming out of it, the four, realize that their bond isn't broken, even though they've made friends outside. It's not a threat to their friendship.
Yeah, it was cute. And that's when of course, the Vandorians appear again, which is just a really wonderful echo. They were doing the whole thing. It was another morality test, and they passed.
I have eaten many outsiders in this cave, but I have never made a friend. Can we be friends?
Of course.
It appears that the junior officers have rekindled their friendship.
By not allowing their new responsibilities to destroy what's truly important, they have passed our test.
Yeah, it was a great way to end it. But right before that, the sentient carnivorous moss loved their stories, and he was just like, wow, I've just never made friends. Will you be my friend? And he wants to hear more stories. Right. So I just thought that was hilarious. And yes, it ends with the Vandorians who appear in the distance. Like it was another morality test. You damn Vandorians.
Yeah. They're funny looking. I think they were neat looking. They had like 4 glowing eyes. I don't know.
Squid looking planarian.
Cool. Yeah, squid.
Maybe if you cut them in half, they'd split into 2. But I like this episode because I like the fact that it explored, friendships. That was an underlying theme. What has become of our friendship now that we are all growing as lieutenants and having lives outside of each other's because we've been together the whole time. And, I think that reflects real life. And, if your friendships are that strong as theirs appears to be, they shouldn't feel like outside friendships should be a threat to theirs.
And I think they realize that.
Right.
I think there's more of a space for that. And who knows, we're in season 4. There may be 2 more seasons of this, maybe 3. We might see them having different experiences with other people. I do love the guest stars that they always have on. They always have funny guests, people, and that's always a thrill. So you never know. Maybe that's what they're teeing us up for, is more adventures maybe on their own.
Oh, yeah, we will see. But I loved it, and I'm looking forward to see how the last 2 episodes play out.
Oh, Well, it's going to be all that mystery ship, I think. I think we might even get a cliffhanger, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, there's always some kind of twist. They always have a twist.
Yeah. I think 9 will be a cliffhanger for 10. And do you, any thoughts on who this mystery ship is now that we've gone through 8 episodes?
I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue who's behind this. Now we realize that the mysterious ship is a ship-stealing ship. So I don't know where this is going to go. So I'm just going to go in wide-eyed and open.
Okay. My only thing that I'm predicting, and this is about it, is I think somehow this ship is from the future. It's a time travel. It can't be from the past. I think it's from the future, and they're doing something because they're not killing them. They're making it look like, there's debris left behind, but they're taking the people and taking the ship. So I think it could be time traveling, but I don't know.
Hey, well, we will see soon enough.
Yes, sir.
Well, that concludes this episode of Energize, the Star Trek Lower Decks Edition podcast.
Thank you so much for listening to us every week. We love hearing from you. We love having you join us for these discussions. You can check us out at energizepodcasts.com. You can also check out Anthony's site. That's anthonymclemore.com, and I can be found at stevetruitt.com.
All right, well, thanks for listening. I'm Anthony McLemore.
I'm Steve Truitt. Live long and prosper.